Person should always do good deeds, but consider that he didn't do them. Bukhara. This land has fascinated many people with its peaceful and unique nature, gardens, and unrepeatable ancient architectural monuments. In particular, the rich scientific heritage left by the scholars of this land has become masterpieces of the world's spiritual property. Khoja Ali Romitaniy was one of the unique people who left behind such a great legacy. Khoja Ali Romitaniy, the 13th of the saints mentioned in Silsila-i Sharif and the 4th saint of Khoja Gan, was born in a village of Kurgan of Romitan district around in 1195. Known as Hazrat Azizan and Khoja Azizan, he was described as a tall, bright-faced, handsome person. It is said that he wove cloth, lived in a humble life, and was with the people on the outside and with the Allah on the inside. Khoja Ali Romitaniy persuaded people to get knowledge, generosity, humanity, justice and love, to live honestly, not to be a burden to others, and to be kind and generous. He was one of the highly devoted, pious, and leading students of Khoja Mahmud Anjar Faghnavi. For this reason, before his death, Khoja Mahmud gave to Romitaniy the right to educate apprentices and entrusted him with the leadership of the tariqah. There were 4 caliphs of Hazrat Romitaniy. They were Khoja Muhammad Klaldas, Khoja Muhammad Hallaj Balhi, Khoja Muhammad Bawardi, and Khoja Muhammad Baba Samasi. Today, Khoja Ali Romitaniy Shrine has become one of the places visited not only by local but also foreign tourists and pilgrims, especially scientists and researchers who are interested in the science of Sufism in the Muslim world to study and research it often came here. What pleases us the most is that along with our elderly, young people also come to these places. Interestingly, in our history, the rich spiritual heritage left by our ancestors is clearly reflected in their faces. When they came to these lands, especially, they often turn with the questions like, who was Khoja Ali Romitaniy? What kind of life did he live? What have we inherited from him? What can we do to become their worthy heirs? Yes, dear ones, today's generation is seriously studying the history of their ancestors. After all, there is a saying from our elderly, a nation and a people that do not know their history will not have a future. Khoja Ali Romitaniy, after spreading knowledge in Romitan for several years, moved to the ancient city called Baward and engaged in education of disciples. After that, he went to Khorasan for the purpose of propagating the tariqah and settled there. About this, his son Khoja Ibrahim wrote in his book that Khoja Ali Romitaniy built a room and a house when he lived in Baward. People of Bawardi called him Khoja Ali Bawardi. The people of Khorasan called him Khoja Ali Khorazmi, and the people of Bukhara called him Khoja Ali Bukhari Romitaniy. In addition, because Khoja Ali Romitaniy was extremely humble, he respectfully addressed his seniors and juniors as Azizan, that's great ones. My great ones, my great. Others called him Azizan. It's known that Khojagan Naqshbandiya Tariqa spread widely in Khorasan region with his efforts. This is our first visit to Uzbekistan. Yesterday we were in Tashkent. Today we came to Bukhara. It's a wonderful city with rich, fascinating and attracting history and spiritual energy. Thank goodness beauty of these sacred places have been preserved. It's being well preserved because of efforts of local people living here. This blessed land has a rich history that makes people want to come back. We sincerely thank the Uzbek people for their hospitality. Khoja Ali Romitaniy was a scholar who thoroughly mastered the science of fiqh and kalam, a saint with many merits. According to the story, a representative of the Yasavi clan, Khoja Ali Romitaniy and Sayyid Ataftin talked. Sayyid Ata annoys Khoja Ali a little in the meeting. In these days, the nomads who attacked from Dashtik Chak captured Sayyid Ata's son. Sayyid Ata, who sought wisdom from this situation and finally realized his mistake, called Khoja Ali Romitaniy as a guest, asked God to make his son's problem easy, and asked him to pray. The prayer of Khoja Ali Romitaniy, who didn't leave Sayyid Ata's request, was answered, and Sayyid Ata's son escaped from captivity and entered through the door of the room where hospitality was being held. When those who sat there were amazed and asked him how he was freed from captivity, he said, "I was in captivity and suddenly I appear in front of you. I don't know any other reasons," he answers. People of the party recognize this situation as the blessing of Khoja Ali Romitaniy. His Holiness Khoja Ali was engaged in poetry, especially literature. He left us a prestigious work called Risala-i Azizan. Today's youth are reading and studying such works. Risala-i Azizan is one of the famous works that has been preserved until now. This work is considered to be an invaluable work on issues of manners, spiritual education, and self-purification. A person who reads and learns it understands himself well, because a person who educates and purifies his soul and last attains highness in the knowledge of religion. In fact, this is the very purpose of Sufism. Khoja Ali Romitaniy says the last is a country and the soul is the king of this country. If we can educate the soul, then the soul can educate the lost, just as the king can reform the country. There is a narration in the book Rashahat when a dear guest came to the house of Khoja Ali Romitaniy, who didn't have anything in his house. He welcomed the guest with an open face. After they ask each other how they are doing, the host goes out of the gate. Then one of his disciples brings food in a bowl and bread on the table and says, "Accept my gift." Khoja Ali Romitaniy, who accepted the gift, set the table and shared food with the guests. After the feast, after seeing off the guests, he called the apprentice who had brought the gift and said, "Make a wish." The disciple answers, "I want to become you." Although Khoja Ali Romitaniy said that this would be a burden for him, the disciple firmly insisted on his word. After Romitaniy prays, he becomes physically and mentally like Khoja Ali Romitaniy, and after living like this 40 days, he dies. Today we came with our family from Namoy city to visit 7 saints in ancient Bukhara. Now we are standing at the shrine of Hazrat Romitaniy. It's a great honor for us to visit such sacred, precious and prestigious places to get acquainted with the history of these great people. Of course, we'll tell our children and grandchildren what we have learned about this. We are extremely happy to get acquainted with the history, exemplary life and lives of his teachers and students of such great people. According to the narration in Manaqibi Khoja Ali Azizani Romitaniy, Khoja Ali Romitaniy goes to the thread market in the evening and buys leftover threads. At night, while practicing prayer, in the corner of the house, the threads would be woven by themselves and become furi gas, karbas, cloth woven from quality cotton fibers. The Khoja would sell this fabric in the market and spend the profit in three parts. One part for those seeking knowledge, the second for poor, orphans, widows, and finally the third part for his family. Students asked from the teacher, "Hey teacher, how did you get to this point?" He answered, "There is a blessing in what is sincerely asked of Allah." When he was also asked, "When will a person find a state of faith?" he answered, "With disconnection and connection." Then when his disciples asked him to explain the meaning of this phrase, "You lose the heart from the love of the word and bind the heart for the eternal life that is everlasting. Only then will you find the happiness of faith."
Hello, I'm from UK, England. My name is Josephine Wild. I'm 70 years old. I have 3 grown-up children, 5 grandchildren, and we decided to come here because we could see what a beautiful place it is to visit, and it looks better to visit Bukhara as you have such a lot of history and beautiful buildings. The people are very welcoming, the people are very friendly, and they try to speak English to us because they try to improve their English. And I think that when I go home, I will tell my friends and my family what a beautiful place Bukhara is. And also it is useful to have a guide because sometimes we don't always understand some of the English. This is Nigel Firmstone, my partner, and we've been together 31 years.
A group of people came to Khoja Azizan and said, "Hey Khoja Azizan, we pray, but our prayers are not answered," they asked. Then Hazrat Azizan said, "How can you raise your hands to your Lord after committing a sin with your dirty hands? If you purify your heart, keep your hands from sin and error, and face God with a pure heart and clean hands, your prayers will certainly be answered." Khoja Azizan also says, if you have a conversation with a person, and if the conversation is not what you want, that's if you don't understand each other, if you talk about truth, if he talks about something useless, then refrain from such conversation. It means that Hazrat Azizan ordered to stay away from those who are ignorant and to continue in the conversation of scholars. Sources say that Khoja Ali Romitaniy, may God bless him and grant him peace, lived for 130 years. Although some works that tell about Khoja Ali say that he died in 1316, Maqamat Shahi Naqshband mentions the year 1321. According to the legend in his work, Khoja Ali Romitaniy died in Kohna Urgenchi, Tahawuz region, which was part of Khorazm and is now considered the territory of Turkmenistan, and was buried there. According to the legend of the people of Bukhara, Hazrat Romitaniy Shaki was later brought to Romitan during the Bukhara Khan's reign of Abdullah Khan II. Before the death of Khoja Ali Romitaniy, Khoja Muhammad Baba Samasi was left in his place, and all disciples and caliphs were subordinated to him.
yurtumuz,
We set out to visit our country, our motherland, the saints who have settled forever on this holy soil. First of all, we are lucky to be born in this land, and we are very thankful for this. During the visit of such blessed places, we'll realize closely that our country is a land where great people, great saints, grew up and presented such geniuses to the world. That's why the peoples of the world didn't say for nothing that Samarkand is the beauty of the earth. Bukhara is the power of Islam. This is a great assessment of our country. Today, together with our family, we came to visit here in order to feel mental relief, to see the positive changes and improvements in these places with our own eyes. Of course, when we return from here, we'll tell our children, grandchildren and relatives about the constructions and improvements in these places, the news, the history of our ancestors, the exemplary way of life. We'll introduce them closely to our past. Would like to use this opportunity to say that let's take our loved ones and children by the hand and bring them to such holy shrines and steps. Let's introduce them closely to the history and exemplary past of our great ancestors, especially our 7 spiritual mentors. Then the respect for the country's history will increase in their hearts, and these places will become more prosperous, more beautiful, and auspicious places. After the Republic of Uzbekistan gained its independence, the shrine of His Holiness Khoja Ali Romitaniy was beautified. As a result of the noble reforms that began with the motto of New Uzbekistan, this place, which occupies an area of about 1 hectare, was turned into a prosperous shrine, and ornamental plants and various flowers were planted. A gatehouse, a new mosque, a mausoleum, a porch built in the national style, a pool and a stone well, a hotel and a kitchen were built. Come to Ramadan if you want to be honest. Come to Ramadan if you want to catch a friend. Come, bowing your head, my friend, if you want to make Azizan's soul happy.